The night was alive with tension. Firefighters were racing toward Grapevine Lake Park, their sirens slicing through the darkness. Flames consumed a makeshift fire pit, throwing flickering shadows across the trees. And then they saw it, a body burned beyond recognition. Even the most seasoned detectives were shocked by what they found that night. Hours earlier, Jackie Vanagriff was alive. She was laughing, texting her friends, and leaving a bar in Denton with a man she trusted. A simple night out that would end in horror. Her last message was short, innocent. "I'm safe." But safety was the last thing she would find. Before we dive deeper into this chilling case, I want to know something from you. Go down to the comments and tell me two things. Where in the world you're watching from, and what time it is right now as you're listening to this story. It's always fascinating to see how true crime brings people together from every corner of the globe at every hour of the day. I'll be reading through them, so don't be shy. And hey, if you love gripping true crime documentaries like this one, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. We've got plenty more stories coming that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Jackie Vanagriff was not just a student, she was a beacon of light in her community. Born and raised in Frisco, Texas, she graduated from Wakeland High School, where she was known for her infectious smile and unwavering positivity. Her journey took her to the Paul Mitchell School for Cosmetology, where she became a licensed esthetician. But her true calling emerged when she enrolled at Texas Woman's University in Denton, Texas, to study nutrition and food science. At TW, Jackie found her niche. She was a junior, deeply immersed in her studies, and passionate about the science of nutrition. Friends and professors alike described her as dedicated, hardworking, and always eager to learn. She wasn't just attending classes, she was building a future, one rooted in helping others lead healthier lives. Her dream was clear: to become a nutritionist who could make a tangible difference in people's well-being. Her social media profiles painted a picture of a young woman embracing life. Posts filled with vibrant photos from campus events, weekend outings with friends, and snippets of her academic achievements showcased her zest for life. She was more than a student, she was a friend, a daughter, and a sister, always surrounded by those who cherished her. But beyond the academic and social aspects, Jackie had a deep love for literature and music. She was an avid reader, with favorites ranging from the Harry Potter series to The Count of Monte Cristo. Her musical tastes were eclectic, enjoying artists like Rob Thomas, Matchbox 20, and Andrew McMahon. These interests were more than hobbies. They were windows into her soul, reflecting her depth and sensitivity. Her friends recall her as someone who could light up any room. Jackie Tunn, a close friend, shared that they often referred to themselves as Jackie Squared, a testament to their bond. Jackie Tunn described her as the smartest girl I've known, highlighting her intelligence and warmth. Others remembered her as a good student who was focused and trusting, always putting others before herself. Her family was her anchor. Raised in a supportive and loving environment, Jackie maintained close ties with her parents, Rick and Sonia Vanagriff, and her sister, Jenny. They were her biggest supporters, cheering her on as she pursued her dreams. Her grandparents, Ron and Shirley Vanagriff of Fairborn, Ohio, and Jean and Ione Fosbinder of Beaver Creek, Ohio, were also integral parts of her life, offering guidance and love from afar. In her leisure time, Jackie enjoyed spending moments with friends at local parks, like Preston Highlands Park near her home. Whether it was a casual stroll or a heartfelt conversation, these outings were her way of staying connected to the world around her. But on the night of September 13, 2016, everything changed. Jackie, in search of a job, entered a bar in Denton. It was there she met Charles Dean Bryant, a man who would soon alter the course of her life forever. Their meeting, seemingly innocent, would lead to a series of events that no one could have anticipated. The evening of September 13, 2016, began like any other for 24-year-old Jackie Vanagriff. A junior at Texas Woman's University in Denton, Texas, Jackie had recently transferred from the University of North Texas, bringing with her a fresh perspective and a deep passion for health and wellness. That night, she decided to unwind with friends at Fry Street Public House, a popular bar among students, known for its vibrant atmosphere and neon lights. Inside, the bar buzzed with energy. The air was thick with laughter and conversation, the clinking of glasses, and the pulsating rhythm of music that seemed to sync with the heartbeat of the crowd. Jackie, ever the social butterfly, was with a group of friends. They laughed over drinks, shared stories, and enjoyed the camaraderie of a typical Friday night. Her presence was magnetic, drawing people in with her infectious smile and easygoing nature. It was then that Charles Dean Bryant entered the scene. Seated just a few chairs away, he observed the group, his eyes lingering on Jackie. With a confident stride, he approached her, striking up a conversation. His demeanor was smooth, his charm undeniable. He exuded the kind of confidence that made him seem approachable yet intriguing. As the night wore on, Bryant's persistence became evident. He maneuvered through the crowd, finding reasons to be near Jackie. At first, his attention seemed flattering, even endearing. But as the evening progressed, a subtle unease began to creep in. His proximity increased, his conversations more frequent. Jackie, ever polite, engaged with him, but her friends noticed the shift. Surveillance footage from the bar captured the growing interaction between the two. Bryant's movements were deliberate, his focus unwavering. Jackie, while still friendly, began to show signs of discomfort. She glanced at her friends, perhaps seeking an escape, but the crowd was thick and the night was late. Around 1:30 a.m., Jackie decided it was time to leave. She gathered her belongings, exchanged farewells with her friends, and stepped into the cool night air. Bryant, ever the opportunist, was right behind her. They walked together down Fry Street, a seemingly innocent pairing under the dim streetlights. As they approached the end of the street, Bryant suggested they grab a drink at another bar. Jackie hesitated, then declined, mentioning she had an early morning ahead. But Bryant was persistent. He offered to walk her home, a gesture that, in hindsight, seemed more controlling than caring. Reluctantly, Jackie agreed. They continued their walk, their footsteps echoing in the quiet streets. What Jackie didn't know was that Bryant's intentions had already shifted from casual acquaintance to something far more sinister. When they reached the apartment complex where Jackie lived, Bryant lingered, his presence imposing. Jackie, feeling the weight of the situation, politely excused herself and entered her building. She sent a quick text to a friend, assuring them she was home safe. But safety was the last thing she would find that night. Charles Dean Bryant had a history that painted a portrait of a man spiraling toward destruction. Behind his confident exterior and charm lay a series of troubling behaviors and legal issues that should have raised red flags. In the months leading up to the tragic events of September 13, 2016, Bryant's personal life was unraveling. He had recently been involved in a tumultuous relationship with Caitlin Mathis, a freshman at the University of North Texas. Their relationship quickly escalated, and Caitlin's mother, Karen Hulsey, expressed deep concerns about Bryant's behavior. She described him as someone who made her feel uneasy, sensing something evil in his demeanor. Despite these warnings, Caitlin continued the relationship, believing Bryant's charm and attention were signs of affection. However, Bryant's behavior soon took a darker turn. After their breakup, Caitlin reported that Bryant began stalking her, showing up uninvited at her workplace and sending persistent messages. Terrified, Caitlin sought legal protection, and a restraining order was issued against Bryant. Court documents revealed that he had been arrested for stalking and criminal trespass after continuing to contact Caitlin despite the legal boundaries set. Further investigation into Bryant's past uncovered a history of troubling behavior. Court records from Washington State, where Bryant had previously lived, showed a pattern of criminal activity dating back to his teenage years. These included arrests for theft and other offenses, painting a picture of a man with a history of legal troubles and aggressive tendencies. Despite these red flags, Bryant was living in Haslett, Texas, at the time he met Jackie Vanagriff. He had recently been evicted from his apartment, adding financial strain to his already unstable personal life. This combination of personal and financial stress may have contributed to his increasingly erratic behavior. When Jackie met Bryant at the bar in Denton, she had no way of knowing the depth of his troubled past. To her, he was just another stranger, charismatic, confident, and seemingly harmless. But in reality, she was walking into the path of a man whose life was on the brink of collapse. Jackie didn't know she wasn't meeting a stranger. She was walking into the path of a man on the edge of destruction. The night air was crisp as Jackie Vanagriff left Fry Street Public House. She laughed with her friends, exchanged hugs, and sent one last reassuring message: "I'm safe." Simple words, filled with trust, and completely unaware that she was stepping into danger. Charles Dean Bryant had offered to walk her to her car, or so she thought. Behind his charm, there was calculation, a careful reading of the situation. Every step down the quiet streets of Denton carried Jackie further from safety and deeper into Bryant's control. Her phone buzzed again that night, a reminder of normalcy. Friends texted, checking in. Jackie replied politely, her trust intact. "On my way home." Innocent, naive, fatal. Bryant drove her away from the familiar, away from the crowded streets and neon lights, into the darkened outskirts. The hum of the engine was the only soundtrack to a journey that would never end as she expected. Every turn of the wheel, every glance from Bryant, was a move she could not predict, a silent threat cloaked in the guise of kindness. Minutes stretched, tension building. Jackie, ever polite, engaged in conversation, laughing softly at his remarks. But there was unease in the small pauses, in the way he insisted on controlling the route, directing them to secluded paths. Her instinct may have whispered caution, but who could have imagined the horror waiting at the end of that ride? Meanwhile, friends waited, unaware of the nightmare unfolding. Texts went unanswered. Calls were missed. Hours passed, and the once light-hearted evening dissolved into terror. Investigators later reconstructed the route, tracing each movement, each decision that led Jackie from laughter to tragedy. Her message, "I'm safe," remained frozen in time, a haunting echo of trust, optimism, and a life stolen too soon. It would be the last anyone would hear from Jackie Vanagriff. The night of September 13th was over, yet for Jackie, the story was far from over. Bryant's life, already unraveling, collided violently with hers, leaving a devastating mark that would ripple through families, friends, and a community struggling to comprehend how such a vibrant young woman could vanish so completely. The morning of September 14, 2016, brought no relief for Jackie Vanagriff's friends. Her last message, "I'm safe," lingered in their minds, now a cruel contrast to the silence that followed. Hours passed. Calls went unanswered. Texts were left unopened. Jackie, the vibrant, full-of-life college student, had vanished. Her friends' concern grew into panic as the day progressed. Each unanswered message intensified the dread. They retraced her steps in their minds. The bar, the drinks, the brief laughter, and finally, the walk home, or so they thought. By late morning, the reality became undeniable. Jackie had not returned home. Her phone remained dark. The Denton Police Department was contacted. Officers began the initial investigation, collecting reports, reviewing security footage, and speaking with bar staff and witnesses. Investigators traced her steps from the bar, confirming the last moments captured on surveillance, Jackie leaving with Charles Dean Bryant. Yet beyond that, the trail went cold. The streets she had walked, once familiar and safe, offered no answers. Her friends posted on social media, hoping someone had seen her. Neighbors checked cameras and street footage. Searches were organized, volunteers combing through parks and alleyways. Every hour that passed without word amplified the fear, the unknown pressing like a weight in the community's chest. Hours became a night of suspense, the city quiet but tense. Each notification buzz on a phone brought hope, then disappointment. No messages. No calls. By dawn on September 15th, the investigation had intensified, yet investigators could not predict the horror that awaited. In the early light, a grim discovery in Grapevine Lake Park revealed the fate of Jackie Vanagriff. Burned beyond recognition, dismembered, her life stolen in a calculated act of violence. The community was stunned. Family and friends struggled to reconcile the vibrant young woman they knew with the tragic end that had been forced upon her. Jackie's story was no longer about a night out. It was about a life cut tragically short and the terrifying consequences of trust misplaced. By dawn, her fate had already been sealed. The morning of September 14, 2016, began like any other in Grapevine, Texas. But for the community, it would soon become a day marked by horror. Firefighters responding to a call in Acorn Woods Park discovered a scene that would haunt them forever. Amid the dense trees and underbrush, they found the charred remains of a human body, burned and dismembered. The fire had been deliberately set, an attempt to destroy evidence and erase a life that had ended far too soon. The victim was quickly identified as 24-year-old Jackie Vanagriff, a nutrition student known for her light-hearted energy and ambitious nature. Her body, left in a remote and secluded area of the park, sent shockwaves through friends, family, and investigators alike. The brutality was unimaginable. For the first time, the reality of her fate struck like a physical blow. Investigators approached the scene with a mix of urgency and caution. The park, usually serene at dawn, was now a crime scene marked by evidence of extreme violence. Forensic teams documented every detail, carefully photographing charred debris, collecting soil samples, and scanning the surrounding area for additional clues. The initial examination suggested a meticulous attempt to hide the crime, but also left chilling evidence of premeditation and malice. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Denton community. Residents, many of whom knew Jackie or her family, were stunned. How could such a violent act occur in their quiet town? The news created an immediate atmosphere of fear, disbelief, and grief. Schools, workplaces, and social circles buzzed with the horrifying realization that someone so young and vibrant had been taken in the most violent way imaginable. As investigators pieced together the events, the focus quickly turned to the last person seen with Jackie. Surveillance footage from the bar confirmed that she had left with Charles Dean Bryant, a man whose troubling past would soon cast a shadow over the case. Authorities discovered that Bryant had prior arrests for stalking and harassment, along with a restraining order from a former girlfriend. Yet none of these warnings had prevented the encounter that would end in tragedy. Every detail of the scene told a story. Burn patterns, placement of the remains, and the surrounding terrain hinted at the desperation and control Bryant had exerted. Investigators noted the precision of the crime. It was both violent and calculated. Each piece of evidence was a silent testimony to the horror Jackie had endured in her final hours. Community members gathered nearby, desperate for answers yet careful to respect the ongoing investigation. Vigils were held, flowers laid at memorials, and messages of support flooded social media. Friends and family grappled with the reality that the vibrant young woman they loved was gone. Her disappearance had turned into the undeniable confirmation of death, leaving an emotional void and a trail of questions. For law enforcement, the discovery of Jackie's body marked a pivotal turning point. The case moved rapidly from a missing person investigation to a full-scale homicide inquiry. Bryant immediately became the focus of law enforcement, his past history and suspicious actions under intense scrutiny. Investigators began building a timeline, mapping movements, and identifying potential witnesses who might have seen the pair that night. Every clue, no matter how small, was now critical. Who was capable of such calculated brutality? For Jackie's friends, family, and the wider community, the answer seemed unfathomable. Yet the investigation hinted that the perpetrator was not a stranger lurking in the shadows, but someone close enough to seem trustworthy, someone whose darkness was hidden behind a veneer of charm. The search for truth had begun, but the shock of the first climax, the discovery of Jackie's body, would linger long in the minds of everyone involved. In the hours after Jackie Vanagriff's disappearance and the discovery of her body, investigators turned to the one resource that could trace her final steps: technology. Every cell phone ping, every camera frame, every digital footprint became a vital piece of the puzzle. Forensic analysts first examined Jackie's phone. Her last texts and calls were scrutinized down to the second. Messages confirming she was safe, simple words exchanged with friends, became haunting reminders of how ordinary the night had seemed just hours before tragedy struck. Each data point revealed movement patterns, locations, and timestamps, forming the backbone of a timeline that law enforcement could follow like a breadcrumb trail through the night. Next, investigators turned to surveillance cameras. The footage captured fleeting moments that pieced together Jackie's final hours. She is seen laughing with friends, waving goodbye, then walking out of the bar alongside a man who would soon become the focal point of the investigation, Charles Dean Bryant. Every frame was examined repeatedly, looking for subtle interactions, hesitations, or anything that might hint at Bryant's intentions. Each camera angle, each blink of an eye, became a piece of a story written in pixels and light. Meanwhile, digital maps overlaid with GPS data painted a more complete picture. Jackie's phone moved from the bar, tracing a path that corresponded with Bryant's vehicle movements. Investigators cross-referenced the data with eyewitness accounts, traffic cameras, and social media check-ins. Slowly, the sequence of events became impossible to ignore. Jackie had not wandered aimlessly. She had been deliberately guided, step by step, toward the location where her life would end. The digital trail revealed more than just movement. It revealed intention. Bryant's presence in multiple locations at key times suggested calculated planning. Patterns emerged, connecting him to prior incidents and demonstrating behavior that mirrored earlier stalking and harassment cases. It became clear that Jackie had not simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time, she had been targeted. Investigators also looked at Bryant's online footprint. Social media interactions, dating apps, and digital communication painted a portrait of someone accustomed to manipulating and controlling those around him. His previous arrests and restraining orders came into sharper focus. He wasn't just a suspect who happened to cross paths with Jackie. He was a man with a documented history of aggression and obsessive behavior, someone whose past offered clues to his dangerous present. Every new piece of data brought both clarity and chilling confirmation. Investigators could now connect Jackie's last texts, her exact location leaving the bar, and Bryant's vehicle movements to a narrative that confirmed their worst fears. Each ping of her phone, each surveillance capture, was a digital echo of her final hours, frozen in time and impossible to ignore. The deeper investigators delved, the more the digital evidence illuminated Bryant's history. He had been free to encounter Jackie despite prior incidents that should have prevented him from being near vulnerable women. Patterns of obsession, stalking, and harassment appeared not as isolated events but as a continuous thread culminating in the ultimate act of violence. The digital trail left no room for ambiguity. Jackie had not vanished randomly, and Bryant had not acted spontaneously. Everything pointed to premeditation. Investigators now knew they were dealing with someone experienced at hiding his intentions, yet whose actions had left a digital footprint that could no longer be erased. But Bryant wasn't just a suspect, he was already well known to police. The discovery that someone with such a documented history had been free to commit this act sent shockwaves through the investigation. The digital trail had illuminated the path to justice, but it also raised questions about how warning signs had been missed and why a community had unknowingly been exposed to such danger. As the investigation into Jackie Vanagriff's murder deepened, authorities began to uncover a portrait of Charles Dean Bryant that was far darker than anyone had imagined. He was not a stranger thrust into Jackie's life by chance. He was a man whose past was littered with warnings, arrests, restraining orders, and accounts from women who had endured his obsessive and controlling behavior. The pieces of his history began to converge, painting a chilling mosaic of violence, manipulation, and premeditation. Investigators pored over court records, protective orders, and prior police reports. Each document revealed patterns: aggressive confrontations, threats, and repeated harassment. Bryant had a documented tendency to intimidate and control, particularly toward women he perceived as vulnerable or defiant. The pattern was unmistakable. He had acted before, and the signs had been there for anyone paying attention. Testimonies from women in his past added a harrowing human element to the paper trail. One ex-girlfriend's recollections were particularly striking. In a voice heavy with lingering fear, she recounted nights spent on edge, unsure when his charm might turn to violence. Her words echoed like a warning: "I knew he'd hurt someone. I just didn't know who or when." It was a statement that carried both regret and foreboding, a warning unheeded that tragically foretold Jackie's fate. As detectives connected these past incidents to the timeline of Jackie's last night, the contrast between Bryant's public persona and his private life became stark. In public, he appeared calm, composed, even charming. But the evidence revealed a man capable of deception, manipulation, and escalating violence. His past behavior was not random, it was a roadmap that traced the path to the murder. Investigators also revisited every detail of the digital trail. Cell phone pings, surveillance footage, and social media activity reinforced the notion that Bryant's actions were intentional. Each piece of data highlighted a pattern of control, a deliberate sequence of choices that led Jackie into his orbit that night. He was not impulsive, he was methodical, following a script that had been honed by past behavior. The ex-girlfriend's accounts, combined with documented restraining orders and prior police interventions, now became central to understanding motive and premeditation. Her chilling statements provided emotional context, a voice from the past confirming what the digital evidence suggested. Investigators could see the trajectory of Bryant's aggression, a life pattern that had escalated over time and culminated in one of the most tragic outcomes imaginable. The community, already shaken by the discovery of Jackie's body, now confronted an unsettling reality. The man who had taken her life had left trails, in court records, police files, and the memories of those who had known him. The warnings had been there, visible to anyone who chose to see them. For detectives, the challenge was clear: connect these past behaviors with the present crime to build a case that could withstand scrutiny in court. Every detail of Bryant's history became a critical piece of evidence. Investigators meticulously cataloged incidents, drawing lines between the documented violence of the past and the murder of Jackie. The case was no longer only about where he had been or what he had done that night. It was about proving a pattern, establishing intent, and demonstrating that the man who had charmed Jackie was the same man capable of ending her life. Now, detectives had to prove he was Jackie's killer. The narrative had shifted. Bryant was exposed, his past laid bare, and his proximity to Jackie undeniable. But revelation alone would not secure justice. Every piece of historical evidence, every testimony, every digital trace would now have to be tied together to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The investigation had reached a pivotal crossroads. The man was exposed, but could the law catch up to the darkness he had harbored for so long? By late September 2016, the investigation into Jackie Vanagriff's disappearance and murder had amassed a mountain of evidence pointing directly toward Charles Dean Bryant. Detectives had painstakingly traced her final hours, from the moment she left the bar to the location where her life was violently ended. Every cell phone ping, every surveillance frame, and every witness statement converged to create a detailed, undeniable timeline. Bryant's presence loomed at every critical point. When officers finally confronted Bryant, he entered the interrogation room as if it were any ordinary conversation. Calm, confident, unshaken. At first glance, he appeared almost unfazed, wearing a composed mask that could have fooled anyone unfamiliar with his history. But detectives were prepared. They had compiled DNA evidence, detailed surveillance footage, and meticulously reconstructed his movements. Each item was a piece of the puzzle that Bryant could not simply deny. The questioning began with seemingly routine inquiries. Detectives asked about his whereabouts, his contact with Jackie, and his relationship with the bar where she had spent her last evening. Bryant maintained a facade of innocence, offering vague denials, small smiles, and controlled pauses. But the officers were relentless. Every answer was weighed against the growing pile of evidence. As the interrogation progressed, the atmosphere shifted. Investigators presented surveillance footage showing Jackie leaving the bar with Bryant. They cross-referenced phone data with GPS information, painting a path he could no longer dispute. They highlighted eyewitness accounts and social media activity that placed him with Jackie at critical moments. With each revelation, Bryant's calm exterior began to crack. Subtle changes in posture, slight hesitations, and fleeting expressions betrayed the tension behind his practiced composure. Detectives then introduced the pattern of his past behavior: prior arrests, restraining orders, and documented instances of violence and harassment toward women. This was not presented as a mere character attack. It was factual, objective evidence showing a continuous pattern of escalation. For Bryant, the weight of his history, combined with the immediacy of Jackie's case, created a pressure that no charm or manipulation could withstand. The questioning turned more precise. Officers methodically traced the night of September 13th, minute by minute, connecting each of Jackie's last movements with Bryant's own timeline. They presented the DNA evidence collected from key locations, the text messages she had sent confirming she was safe, and the path he had driven her along that fateful night. Each revelation built a narrative that could no longer be dismissed as coincidence or misfortune. As the hours passed, Bryant's confident veneer began to falter. The reality of the accumulated evidence, the digital footprint, the witness testimonies, the corroborating timelines, became impossible to ignore. Detectives pressed further, emphasizing that his past behavior demonstrated not only opportunity but also intent. The room grew tense, the air thick with the weight of impending truth. For the investigators, this confrontation was more than a procedural step. It was the moment when Bryant's meticulously maintained double life began to unravel. The man who had smiled and charmed his way into trust, who had hidden his violent tendencies for years, now faced a mountain of evidence that left him little room to maneuver. Every denial, every feigned calm, was met with incontrovertible facts. By the end of the interrogation, it was clear, Bryant's facade was crumbling. The man who had seemed untouchable, untethered from consequence, was now cornered by his own history and the meticulous work of investigators. His double life, built on deception, manipulation, and escalating aggression, was collapsing under the weight of truth. The stage was set for the next, inevitable step, accountability. His double life was collapsing under the weight of truth. The confrontation marked a turning point. The investigation had exposed his past, mapped his actions, and presented him with undeniable evidence, yet the final confirmation, the moment he would face justice, still lay ahead. Detectives knew that the next steps would be decisive and that Jackie Vanagriff's story was moving closer to resolution. The courtroom buzzed with a tense anticipation that seemed to hang in the air. Months of painstaking investigation, interviews, and evidence collection had all led to this moment, the trial of Charles Dean Bryant for the murder of Jackie Vanagriff. The community watched with bated breath. Family, friends, and strangers alike filled every seat, each person silently grappling with the enormity of the crime and the hope for justice. From the very first day, the trial was a study in contrast. On one side, a meticulously prepared defense seeking to cast doubt, challenge witnesses, and question every detail. On the other, a prosecution armed with irrefutable evidence, DNA results, surveillance footage, cell phone location data, and a reconstructed timeline of Jackie's final hours. Each piece was presented with clinical precision, a layer in the web that pointed directly to Bryant. Forensic experts described the findings in painstaking detail. DNA traces matched Jackie's presence to critical locations, and digital data placed Bryant with her at times that could not be reasonably disputed. Every surveillance frame was analyzed and presented, showing the movements that led Jackie into Bryant's fatal orbit. The prosecution connected these pieces seamlessly, creating a compelling narrative grounded in fact. But the human element was equally powerful. Jackie's family took the stand, their faces etched with grief and determination. They spoke of Jackie's energy, her warmth, and her dreams, the young woman who had been full of life, who laughed easily, and who had a bright future ahead. Their voices trembled, yet their words were unwavering, a poignant reminder of the stakes at hand. They described the void left in their lives, a gap that could never be filled, and each word resonated through the courtroom, making it impossible for anyone present to detach emotionally from the case. Bryant's defense attempted to dismantle the prosecution's case. They questioned the reliability of witnesses, sought to discredit the surveillance evidence, and tried to separate past behaviors from the events of September 2016. But each attempt faltered under the weight of overwhelming proof. The timeline, the DNA, the digital records, and the consistency of witness testimonies created a seamless narrative that left little room for doubt. Even Bryant's own calm demeanor began to falter under repeated scrutiny, as the contrast between his assertions and the documented facts became undeniable. Throughout the trial, tension built like a taut wire. Every piece of evidence, every testimony, and every cross-examination added to the mounting pressure. The jury could see the stark contrast between Bryant's public persona, controlled, composed, and outwardly charming, and the reality revealed by his actions and history. Prior incidents of harassment, restraining orders, and documented aggression were presented not merely as character evidence but as a pattern that contextualized his behavior and choices that night. The prosecution was deliberate, patient, and methodical. Every detail mattered. Every pause, every glance, every revelation carried weight. The courtroom itself seemed to hold its breath as the story of Jackie Vanagriff's last hours unfolded in front of the jury. The meticulous assembly of facts, coupled with the raw emotion of family testimony, created an unrelenting narrative of loss, betrayal, and accountability. Would the jury see through Bryant's facade? The question hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. Bryant's carefully constructed mask of innocence, his manipulations and denials, had been exposed under scrutiny, but now it rested in the hands of 12 individuals tasked with delivering justice. The courtroom had borne witness to the facts, the human cost, and the methodical unraveling of Bryant's story. All that remained was the verdict, the moment when truth, evidence, and morality would collide. The moment the jury filed back into the courtroom, a heavy silence fell over everyone present. Months of painstaking investigation, exhaustive evidence gathering, and countless testimonies had led to this singular, defining instant. Charles Dean Bryant sat rigid, attempting to maintain composure, yet the tension radiating from him was palpable. The weight of his actions and the scrutiny of the law pressed down like a tangible force. The foreperson stood, holding the envelope that contained the verdict, and spoke words that would reverberate for years. Guilty of murder in the first degree. Life without the possibility of parole. The words hung in the room, echoing against the walls, against the hearts of everyone present. It was final, irrevocable. Bryant's crimes had been laid bare, and the law had rendered its judgment. For Jackie's family, the moment was both a release and a wound reopened. Relief surged, tempered by the raw, unrelenting grief that had become a constant companion since that fateful September night. They had waited for this day, yet the verdict could not restore the life they had lost. Every tear, every embrace, every whispered word of remembrance was a testament to Jackie's vibrant life and the void left behind. The courtroom itself seemed to exhale. Friends, colleagues, and community members who had followed the trial shared looks of quiet acknowledgement. They had watched as the details of Bryant's actions unfolded, and now they witnessed accountability enforced. Yet, even as justice was served, the emotional cost was staggering. Jackie's absence was permanent, her laughter, her light, her plans for the future, all extinguished in a single violent act. As Bryant was led away, his expression unreadable, the focus shifted outside the courthouse. A vigil had formed, candles flickering in the dusk, photographs of Jackie placed carefully on makeshift memorials, flowers laid with reverent hands. Each flame represented memory, sorrow, and love. Passers-by paused, some bowing their heads, some leaving silent messages of support. The community collectively mourned, each person grappling with the reality that Jackie's life had been cut short, yet finding solace in the knowledge that the man responsible would no longer walk free. The sentence marked both closure and continued grief. Jackie's friends and family reflected on her life, sharing stories that spoke of joy, ambition, and kindness, qualities that could never be quantified in a courtroom but that were forever etched in their memories. The legal conclusion, though essential, could not erase the emotional scars, the birthdays she would never celebrate, the milestones she would never reach, and the moments her loved ones would carry in quiet, private sorrow. Justice was served, but at an unbearable cost. Bryant would remain behind bars for the rest of his life, a tangible acknowledgement of accountability. Yet, for those who loved Jackie, the emotional toll remained profound. Her story, her life, and her loss would continue to ripple through the hearts of all who knew her. The sentence was a definitive chapter in the legal sense, but the human story, the grief, the remembrance, the reflections on betrayal and tragedy continued, echoing far beyond the courthouse walls. Jackie Vanagriff's story did not end with the courtroom's gavel. Her memory lives on in the hearts of those who knew her, a bright, kind, and ambitious young woman whose life was filled with promise. Friends and family remember her laughter, her warmth, and the boundless potential she carried with every step she took. Jackie's legacy is one of love, light, and the countless ways she touched those around her, a reminder that even in tragedy, her spirit endures. Her story also serves as a chilling reminder that predators often hide in plain sight. Charles Dean Bryant appeared to be just another man, another face in the crowd, but beneath that facade lurked danger, manipulation, and a capacity for violence that no one anticipated. The betrayal he committed highlights a painful truth: evil can exist behind smiles, charm, and normalcy. Jackie's life was stolen, yet her story forces us to examine how warning signs can go unnoticed and how vigilance, awareness, and compassion must guide us in protecting ourselves and others. The legal system delivered justice, but reflection remains. Could Bryant have been stopped sooner? Were there missed signals, overlooked restraining orders, or ignored warning signs? These questions linger, and they are ones we encourage you to consider. Do you think the system could have stopped Bryant sooner? Tell us in the comments. It's in these conversations, shared across communities and screens, that remembrance becomes active, that lessons are carried forward. As the screen fades to soft, quiet reflection, Jackie's memory shines brightest in the acts of remembrance and advocacy that follow. Every vigil, every shared story, every message of awareness helps ensure that she is never forgotten. Her story is a testament to resilience, a call to vigilance, and a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of hidden betrayal. And while this chapter closes, the world of true crime continues to reveal stories of deception, double lives, and the tragic cost of misplaced trust. Next time, we'll uncover another chilling story of betrayal and tragedy. Before you go, if you found this story compelling, insightful, or important, please like this video, share it with someone who cares about true crime awareness, and subscribe for more in-depth, narrative-driven documentaries. Your support helps these stories reach more people, honor the victims, and keep their memories alive.